out pretty quick, but he found us at City Hall. He loves you guys, man.
Yeah. We're here talking today.
That's why we said it.
We're live here. I'm gonna go live first. Saves battery.
Their definition of power and our definition of
So ADR says we need the Bushwick. I can't say that here. I mean, I could put the after in words, but I can't say that. Because if you disrupt, they kick you out. They have all new rules of conduct.
officially make that impossible. And that's it.
So we're live, you know.
Yeah, we're just talking, not. What's still in it? Thank you for your help on the letter with the Patriot today.
It's moving. West to east.
And so you'll probably join the Brooklyn breakout. Yeah, just
I didn't know you were going to get part of
yeah, appreciate it.
I'm so happy we got it.
Who from Transalt's here? Okay. We have JQ here.
The one that was at
Hey, Laura, what's up? That was a great critical mass bike ride. Great critical mass bike ride, everybody. Who else is familiar here?
Abu.
He looks familiar. Is he from Astoria?
Nah, he's from CB5.
Oh, really? Oh, he looks like the guy from Astoria.
Yeah, John from CB5.
You guys still hanging, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's too bad for you, man. You're a better man than that guy.
I thought you told me. He's a good person. He's a good guy. He don't bite. He doesn't bite. So don't worry about it.
Who is he?
That's Jay. Yeah, he,
Like how you rolls or
yeah. But he don't. I think he got confused. He's a good guy.
Hey, what's up, Abu? That was some critical mass bike ride, right? Put the phone down. That's a critical mass bike ride, right?
He usually gets kicked out of public hearings.
That's it. That's what you're gonna get.
Basically, if you sum it up.
Yeah.
He does something similar? Yeah. What are you, social media?
Yeah.
Which what do you want? Twitter?
Everything. Twitter, Facebook, X, YouTube. One thing I'm not really on is TikTok. Chris Lee John NYC. CHRIS.
Write it down.
Where's your? I mean, all right, use.
I mean, maybe I'm. Well, yeah. I mean, how could, you can take 2 Gardens Road, right? Like by the
It's
cemetery.
like a straight arrow, so he's not going to get thrown out of here, basically.
He's a lot better. He's a nicer human. This guy is not a nice human. Christopher, right?
Yeah.
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 You can actually have a conversation with the man.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I'm on X, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything.
Okay.
Can't miss it. See, I'm gonna go live because.
What's up, Roger? All right, folks. Good evening. Good evening. I'm going to ask for everybody's attention. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you, folks, for joining us. My name is Jason Van Ray, Deputy Borough Commissioner for the Queens Office. Here, joined by multiple teams, and I'll let Gloria share those teams. You can talk about public works teams and all that. Want to thank you guys for being here at the first conduit corridor kickoff meeting. This is our first workshop of many. We have another a virtual workshop coming up in the coming weeks, and we'd love for you folks to participate in that. Can I have a raise of hands for folks who are our CAB members, our Community Advisory Board members? Awesome, awesome, that's really good. It's a healthy amount. Roger, thank you for taking on that challenge. Looking to you folks to carry this burden with us, to carry the news. A lot of folks who raise their hands, I know from experience, you guys have large networks of people that you guys talk to, you share information with, and also pull back information with. So our expectation is that you're gonna, moving forward, we're gonna see more people in the next meeting. We're gonna hold you guys to that. I'm gonna hold you guys to that every time we see you guys. Because this outreach is only as big as we work together. So that's just an important point. And for folks who aren't CAB members, we're looking for you to do that too. We're also looking for you to put pressure on CAB members to fill these rooms up. As we move forward, we want to see more people in these rooms giving feedback because we're still in an early process with providing feedback. And that's what today's about. Today's about giving us feedback, telling us what your priority locations are, telling us what priority areas where you see issues. As we work through this outreach process, it's going to be a long outreach process. We definitely want to take things into the catchment. Want to get Craig Chin to raise the hand because he raised his hand. He is the board planner for Community Board 10. We're at Community Board 10 right now.
Yay, Trey.
Yeah, so that deserves a. Between myself and then a whole host of folks help serve this area, and then we have other planners that also serve the entirety of the corridor. But we're also joined here by our Brooklyn family, our Brooklyn office, Diana Soriano, who's a planner on the western end. So 2 teams, multiple teams are a part of this, but both the Brooklyn office and the Queens office are combining their forces with Gloria and multiple folks to hold this effort and to continue this effort moving forward. But what are we doing here today? So today, just want to remind attendees that we're going to be offering interpretation services. Does anybody need interpretation? We have interpreters here in Spanish and Bengali. Anybody need any interpretation services? No, but if you do, if somebody does come, please let them know. Can the Bengali translators raise their hands? Boom. And then the Spanish interpreter, Diana Soriano, raise their hands. So the agenda today. So we're going to go over background. Gloria's going to go over background in a second. We'll do that for about 20 minutes, and then we're going to stop for a quick Q&A. So please give us time to give you guys to just go through some content. Then we want to take some questions from you folks. And then after the Q&A, we're going to break out into smaller groups. Some folks are kind of in those groups already. We'll help you get into second off into other further groups as well. And after that, we're going to ask one person from every team to kind of be that host representative to kind of share that feedback or provide us that feedback at the end. But most importantly, we want to go over the code of conduct. How many of you folks are familiar with the code of conduct? Raise your hands. Good. We know that some folks here are. So we want to remind folks of what the code of conduct is because it's what's going to really help us navigate the conversations here today. Want to remind folks to be very respectful to one another. Want to remind folks to provide folks with the space to share what their concerns are, questions, and comments are. But just going to read through this very quickly. So what's the purpose? The purpose of the code of conduct. The code of conduct is intended to facilitate respectful and productive community conversations. And of course, there's guidelines. I want folks to listen intently without judgment, so we may learn from one another's experiences and perspectives, share the air, share the time, share the space with one another, be collegial and be respectful. Also, treat others with respect and dignity and show empathy. Very important to demonstrate the ability to recognize and respect how someone else feels. We're going to be going around. If folks aren't comfortable, please let us know. If folks are being disrupted, please let me and Craig Chin know. It's important that we facilitate healthy conversations here. We don't want any disruptions. We want to make sure folks feel comfortable and have the ability to provide comments. And then the last thing, just be present. Focus on the conversation at hand. Use of any videography and audio recording devices is strongly discouraged. And so to the two gentlemen that are filming here today, when we break out into individual conversations, we're going to ask you guys not to record because some folks aren't comfortable with that. Okay. And if you folks continue to record when we ask you guys to stop recording, we've notified NYPD. We've had experience with some folks here before. Just want to put you on folks on notice because we had to remove you folks before from some meetings. We're going to reserve the right to do that again here today. So just putting folks on notice, everybody on notice. If we do have some difficulty and it does escalate, we're going to have to remove some folks. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Gloria Campbell. She's the director of the Conduit Corridor project.
Thanks, Jason. Hi, everyone. I'm Gloria. I work at DOT, and I'm the director on this project. Before I get started, I want to thank Senator Prasad's office for coming out tonight. There you are. And I'll also mention a thanks to a couple of organizations that help us put on this workshop, Public Works Partners and T.Y. Lin Engineering Firm, if you all can also give a wave. So we're here tonight to talk about a long-term plan that DOT is kicking off. We want the conduit corridor in the future to be a little bit more responsive to community needs, safer, and better kind of connected. So I have about a 25-minute presentation where we'll talk more about the study. We'll talk a little bit about conditions out there on the conduit. We'll talk through some potential outcomes from the study, and then more about how DOT is getting the word out this summer. After that, we'll split up into small group discussions, and we want to hear from you all and your experiences on the corridor. That'll be about a half hour, and then the last 10 minutes, we'll come back together and we'll do just a quick share out from all the groups about what everyone discussed throughout the night. So a little bit more about the study. So New York City DOT is focused on Conduit Boulevard and Conduit Avenue between Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn and Lefferts Boulevard in Queens. Together, this is what we're calling the Conduit Corridor. And in order to plan for the future of city streets, we of course need to take into consideration the neighborhoods around the streets. You can also see on your screen that the conduit runs diagonal to the street grid, of course. There's a lot of wonky intersections on the conduit. And that really has a lot to do with the history of how the street came to be. So for centuries, the Canarsie people lived in this area. After settlement, in the 1850s, Brooklyn was expanding pretty rapidly and needed a more stable water supply. So the city built a water conduit that went from Long Island into Brooklyn, where then water was stored in the Ridgewood Reservoir, which is now in Highland Park today. This became obsolete after Brooklyn merged with New York City and tapped into their water supply. And it left a right-of-way that wasn't used anymore. So the city paved it over into a street. About 100 years later, there was a highway expansion plan in the 1950s during kind of the highway boom in America. And the conduit was a part of that. So the street was redesigned to have a big median in the middle, which is what we see out there today. And the plan was to put a highway in the middle of that median. Of course, that highway was never built, but the conduit we see today is like an access road to the highway that does not exist. This area also has been influenced and shaped in about the past 10 years by a few neighborhood plans and rezoning. So in 2013, the city did the Ozone Park rezoning. In 2016, there's the East New York Neighborhood Plan. What else? There's also the Howard Beach Resilient Communities Study. And today, the city is leading the Jewel Streets Neighborhood Plan, which is led by a couple folks in the room tonight from the Department of Housing, Preservation, and Development. So because of this history and kind of lack of planning on the conduit, today it's really worthy for a long-term plan. We know that the conduit is kind of a key regional road. It's a through truck route, and many vehicles use it to get in and out of New York City. But it's also could go a long way in terms of safety, and could have designs that make it more comfortable and calm to be a pedestrian and get around. So DOT is kicking off this study to plan for a more multimodal corridor, to better reconnect communities and neighborhoods along the corridor, and to consider the future use of the median and what might be the best uses for that currently open space. We have many partners in this project, including the local organizations you see on your screen, as well as the community boards in the area and local elected officials' offices. All of these folks are both providing feedback on the project and, like Jason mentioned, helping us get the word out. We're also partnering with several government agencies. On the city side, the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, the New York City Department of City Planning, the Parks Department, and the Department of Housing, Preservation, and Development. We're also talking to the MTA and the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Quick note about timeline. So we're all here at the public engagement kickoff for the plan. We want to take some time tonight to hear more about your experiences along the corridor, both challenges that you might experience while navigating the area around here, but also kind of the opportunities for the future and long-term outcomes you might be interested in. DOT will take all of your feedback back to our offices, and we'll develop some draft conceptual proposals for the corridor, and we'll bring them back out for your all review and feedback either late this year or early next. Then we'll, after those rounds of discussions, we'll bring all that feedback back again, and we'll come up with a draft recommended proposal for the corridor. That will be kind of shaped up into a report, released. The plan is fall of next year. And once we have that recommended proposal, DOT can begin designing and implementing it. So a little bit about what the conduit looks like today. So we see a lot of traffic on the conduit, of course, every day, both speeding and congestion, depending on where you are and the time of day. The speed limit on the Brooklyn side is 25 miles an hour on the conduit, and then on the Queens side it's 30 miles per hour. But I will also say that some of New York City DOT's most profitable speed cameras are located along the conduit, so we know that there's a significant speeding issue along the corridor. The conduit, of course, is also unique in that it has a wide open median that's really not used or programmed for much today. It's nice green space, but really it's just used for people walking through. There's also limited pedestrian infrastructure along the conduit, so limited sidewalks along the corridor itself. Some of the sidewalks that do exist aren't in the best condition. There are some crosswalks along the corridor, but there could be more, and we see a lot of indication that new crossings might be appreciated. So on the conduit, that you all are familiar, we see a lot of desire lines. So these are unpaved paths that are created by people walking the same route over and over again over time. And this gives really obvious clues to New York City DOT about where new crossings or pathways might be appreciated or needed. There's also some conditions out there that kind of might add to a sense of discomfort for folks walking around or traveling along the corridor, some vacant lots and areas where the lighting isn't great. And we know that there's some persistent flooding issues in neighborhoods along the corridor, especially after heavy rainfall events and storms. I also want to point out that the conduit corridor is unique depending on where you are. There's some unique conditions. So on the Brooklyn side, the median is a little bit more narrow. Some of the blocks there's a lot of trees planted. It has more of a like wooded feeling. And this is the area where we also see the most cross streets and more crossings for pedestrians. Traveling east into Queens, to the area kind of around Linden Boulevard, that intersection, the median really opens up. It gets quite wide and grassy. The speed limit increases to 30, and we see a lot fewer cross streets, which also means fewer crossings for pedestrians. You keep heading east around the area of the Belt Parkway interchange, and east of that. The median again is quite wide, but it's pretty chopped up by on-ramps, off-ramps, conduit splitting. And this is actually where we see the most traffic volume, so the highest amount of traffic is kind of in that area. So we've talked through all of the conditions out there today, and I wanted to just run through an example of how this might affect someone who's navigating the corridor, especially on foot. So let's say someone is leaving their house in Lindenwood, they're meeting friends for a softball practice in Tudor Park. If this person were to just use kind of signalized intersections and crosswalks to make that journey, they'd probably go down 149th, they'd probably cut through the Linden Shopping Center, and then use the new 79th Street crossing to then go to Tudor Park. They could also take the pedestrian bridge and go around that way. This is a quite long trip. It could take almost 20 minutes. It's about a mile long. So it really makes sense that we see a lot of these desire lines out there that connect people to more directly to destinations. But of course, if this person were to take that desire line, once they get to the edge of it, they are met without a crosswalk or stoplight. So they'd have to, cross 3 lanes of traffic with cars that we know often speed in order to get to their destination. New York City DOT has implemented several projects in this area over the past several years. These projects have expanded sidewalks, they've added new traffic signals and crosswalks, and we've also installed a new paved crossing at 79th Street, kind of by the Linden Shopping Center, about a couple years ago. Here's a map of where all of those projects have gone in. To date, New York City DOT's work has been very targeted and focused on enhancing safety for people navigating the corridor. But now with the conduit corridor plan, we kind of want to take a step back, think holistically, think long term about the future of the full conduit. I'll also mention a few exciting projects that are led by the city and state in this area today. So our coworkers at New York City DOT are doing a bunch of public outreach this summer toward safety improvements and bus priority service improvements, for Linden Boulevard. New York City HPD, the Department of Housing Preservation and Development, is finalizing the Jewel Streets Neighborhood Plan, which is set to be released later this year. And New York City Department of Environmental Protection, they're in final design for some new green infrastructure that'll go into the areas you see on the map, into the median, which will help absorb runoff from the areas surrounding the median and kind of mitigate the stormwater runoff that we see after heavy storm events. I'll also mention that MTA has been working on the Queens and Brooklyn bus network redesigns. The new Queens bus changes will go into effect this summer, and MTA plans to release the changes on the Brooklyn side sometime later this year. So what are some potential outcomes from this study? First, we can think about the design of the conduit itself, so both the design of travel lanes, but also the intersections along the corridor. So how can we redesign intersections and the conduit to make sure vehicles can pass through efficiently, but also that pedestrians can travel through safely and comfortably. Any sort of traffic calming treatments could also be in this category. Another thing we can think about is improved pedestrian connections. So this is both adding sidewalks or replacing existing sidewalks that aren't super well maintained. We can think about adding new crosswalks and adding new crossings through the median. We can also think about what a greenway connection might look like in this area. So greenways, of course, are multi-use paths. People usually walk, run, bicycle on them. There's a couple greenway connections nearby. First at Highland Park, and then of course the Jamaica Bay Greenway, and Conduit could be a connecting point for either of those greenways. In the median space, we could think about redesigning it to be an accessible public space, either for active recreation uses or just a nicer space for people and vehicles to be able to pass through. We can also think about expanded stormwater drainage improvements, both in the conduit median, but also what does stormwater management look like on the roadway itself. And then we can think about other community uses in the corridor, like building community centers, housing, things like that. I'll walk through a couple case studies that kind of show the types of outcomes that could happen with the conduit corridor plan. So the Sheridan Expressway, of course, is located in the Bronx. It runs between the Cross Bronx and Bruckner. And over the past 10 years or so, the city and the state have worked together to redesign that roadway. So it used to be kind of an elevated expressway, elevated above. The city and state redesigned it to be a more typical city street boulevard type of road. The redesign added 3 new intersections where vehicles and people can pass through. It also kind of, the change from the more highway style road to a more city style road opened up some space where expanded parks and expanded space for housing could then be added. The intersection you see on your screen is 172nd Street. And here's a before and after on the ground. So before the redesign, it looks like a very typical highway view. And after, it looks more like a typical city street with crosswalks, a cross street, and in this case, a bike lane. I'll talk about another example in New York State. So this is in Rochester, the Inner Loop. So the Inner Loop Expressway in Rochester was kind of a highway ring road within the city. And the city and state worked together to take like a portion of the ring road and turn it into a boulevard from a highway. So today in Rochester, the highway part is more like a C. And it was kind of a similar process to the Sheridan. The redesign into more of a city boulevard allowed for new pedestrian and vehicle crossings. And you can see actually a good example of this on your screen, this area where there used to be a on-ramp was then redesigned into a more typical boulevard that freed up some more space, which then could be added to the small park that's down here. And this is a street level view from that area. Again, you see a typical highway situation in the before picture, and after. This project in particular was able to add a few new city blocks. So They're able to design for expanded sidewalks, in this case a bike lane, as well as some apartments. So we'll talk a little bit more about how DOT is getting the word out. So at the top of the presentation, we mentioned that list of community organizations, elected officials, offices, and community boards. Together they make up our community advisory board. So we're meeting with them at project milestones to both get feedback on the project, but also help get the word out to those communities. Thank you again for joining tonight's workshop. We'll have another one on Thursday. We'll hold workshops throughout the process. Thursday's workshop will be virtual. It will be held on Zoom, and it'll be the exact same information as today, so no need to join for both. You can look out for us this summer along the corridor. We'll be doing some pop-up tabling and tagging along to community events that are already happening. Really looking just to meet people where they are, get quick feedback, and kind of get the word out that way. And we also have a website. So you can see the link to our website here, www.nyc.gov/conduit-corridor. This website is a good place to check for project updates. We'll keep it updated. Right now, it also has an online feedback map that's available. So if you have friends or family that couldn't make it tonight, go ahead and send them this link, and they're welcome to add their feedback to the online map. And with that, I'll turn it back to Jason, and we'll talk a little bit about the small group discussions, and we'll also take a few questions.
Awesome to be joined by a lot more familiar faces. Thank you for joining us. So we're just gonna break for a second to do some Q&A. Thanks for the presentation. That was pretty dense, 30 slides, but I think it was a pretty good primer for what we're about to embark on. So just wanted to pause here for a second. Does anybody have any questions before we begin in earnest? Sir.
Yeah, hi. My name is Christopher Leon Johnson. I'm from Brooklyn, right across the other side, Brooklyn, New York. I want to know, like, where's the daylighting in this stuff? Where's the daylighting? Like, where is the daylighting with Mr. Kamari Hughes? He passed away in not my area, but in my congressional district. But I want to know, where's the daylighting on this? I see no daylighting here at all.
So if you have, that's a good question, right? So we're about to break out into groups, and if you have specific locations, specific areas where you want to see daylighting,
Yeah.
that's what we want to learn from you guys. We want to learn about specific intersections, specific segments where you see speeding, where you see issues, where you want to see connectivity. That's the type of feedback we want to see embedded onto some of the sheets. Let's just get a sense of how many folks we have here, but also, most importantly, the facilitators. Where are our facilitators at? Can our facilitators raise their hands? Awesome. So for folks who see an empty table or a table that might need to be filled, I want to ask folks to start migrating to some of those tables. While folks might still have some questions. Does anybody else have any questions? John?
Yeah. The DEP projects, are they like long-term permanent infrastructure, or are they going to be things that you can work with and still modify depending on what comes out here? Like, are they underground? Are they above ground? Like, how much will they dictate what can be done at the surface?
Sure. Today there's some green infrastructure in the median, and it's not very noticeable unless you look for a couple drains that kind of look like little domes. The planned green infrastructure is something we have to plan around, but there are options, and we'll continue to talk with DEP.
Yes, hello, my name is Angus, and I'm also from the East New York side of things. I want to know, for full transparency, like when is an in-person transportation meeting coming to CB5 side? Because you have these two set, but nothing is set for CB5, and we recently, like yesterday, got notified of this meeting. So it's a lack of.
How'd you find out about this meeting?
I found out about this meeting by a person, somebody that's attending the meeting.
Awesome. Got it. Okay. Oh, thank you, fellow CAD member. worked. Great, yeah, so I think we want to learn a little bit more here today and then work with CAB members and work with folks such as yourselves to dictate when those next meetings are. We knew that this is a pretty large swath as far as a project parameter. It was pretty difficult to choose a kickoff location as well as a virtual, hence kind of what we've chosen, but we are going to host more in-person meetings, more virtual meetings, but we want to be very intentional with where we're going. Today's a good kickoff to that, learning where people's priorities are, and then going to those priorities as we work with folks to dictate when meetings are happening. But, hear you loud and clearly, that's something that we felt too, and that's something that we're going to build in as we move forward.
Sure.
This is a long process, right? So this is the beginning of the process, right? And so
I'm a part of the East New York CLT and the Jewel Street projects and what's going on there. I've been a part of every single meeting that happens on that side about that.
Yep.
And some of what you're talking about was already introduced in the Jewel Street's project. So it's kind of like the project already was started, and this is the expansion of what is already happening. So that's why I wanted to be real transparent, because DOT is not open to communication with the East New York side. We've been trying to communicate for over 3 years with DOT, and to no avail with Community Board 5. So I want this to be very transparent and not something that's coming from top down, because it's not holistically what everybody wants, both sides of the spectrum.
maybe you can talk to a little bit about how we got here, right? Because this study is a pretty large encompassing study that came from some funding, right? And maybe that'll kind of help folks kind of better understand how it fits into the Jewel Streets, how it fits into other things that are happening simultaneously in the development process.
Sure. DOT has wanted to do a long-term study in this area for a long time. We applied for a couple grants, didn't get the funding, so now the city's funding it. We've heard a lot about the conduit through the Jewel Streets project, so we're kind of trying to carry the torch and continuing the planning for conduit. Let's talk about the best way to get in touch with you and coordinate better.
Yeah, because I feel like this is a good opportunity to empower you to become a CAB member. If you're involved in...
I have my nonprofit organization
Yeah.
on the East New York side, where we definitely service the community and disseminate information throughout the community. So I definitely would love to connect with you all
Great.
to help share the nuances.
Yeah, I'll connect with you.
Sir, over there.
I got it. 1 second. You arranged HPD?
No, yes.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to thank you for that comment. I think the work that we're doing in the Jewel Streets has really informed the work that DOT is doing, and all of the community engagement was not lost on the city side, and we really passed that on. And everything that we've done on the transportation side has been like thinking about the future, and both the Linden and the conduit corridor, like long-term design, is something that is like, yes, building on the Jewel Street. So it's like the process already started, but this is going way longer and like really long term. So that's why like I'm coordinating with them. So yeah.
And like we said, it's just the beginning.
Okay.
Sir?
Hi there, my name is Joe. I'm from Ozone Park. I'm a cyclist. I rode all around the conduit for the last 45 years. And I just want to ask you, it's a parkway, right? You know it's a parkway. And you mentioned somehow like you want to put like I guess like a reservoir or something like that, for like climate, something like that. But there's grass. You know it's filled with grass, right? You know the parkway's filled with grass. So why do you need to do construction to build like some sort of like a climate concern thing? It's already there. And also to follow up on his question, does Brooklyn have a transportation liaison like Queens does, like Laura Shepherd?
Yeah, so we announced that at the beginning. Diana Soriano is the borough planner for this project, and she'll be working with us.
Oh, but is he a liaison? Because I know Borough President Richards. He made up that job for her. I mean,
Okay, I think we're kind of getting off topic. So
All right.
we can answer those questions. We can answer those questions after the fact. But I want to make sure we get to folks that have relevant questions.
This is a relevant question. This is a
Sir, do you have a
complicated.
question?
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to say, relating to what the community leader, Mr. Fisher, was saying, I think that uniting the different neighborhoods within this project is very essential. So we all get the sole outcome that we all would like. But as far as safety, it's not safe on a daily basis. I live in this area I drive in the conduit every single day. To cross is a danger itself to cross the conduit, you know. Sometimes I'm strolling with my little sister and we have to run. You know, I think a big part of it is the pruning of trees. There's no visibility in the night,
Great.
you know. And
Yeah. This is the type of
as
feedback.
far as irrigation is concerned, when it's flooded, on some of these lanes, you know, it's a lot of hydroplanting, you know, and a lot of cyclists die, you know, and I lived in this area my whole life, and we all want to innovate it the proper way. So I'm sure we're all getting together and working together, and I'm excited to see outcomes that we all would like. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Nicholas, thank you. Betty?
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Jason. By the way, ladies,
Community Board 10
transparent,
chair.
I'm the
Sorry.
chairperson of Community Board 10. And I want to thank DOT for engaging in this study. As I said to somebody when I came in, we would have, if we had our druthers, we'd have liked to see this study go from the Nassau County line all the way in. But I can understand why Lefferts was chosen as your endpoint really. That being said, within the study area, virtually the entire strip from Lefferts Boulevard to the Brooklyn line is all within Community Board 10, and it passes through numerous communities, and some of their community leaders are here tonight. One of the concerns that we have, and it's a question that I've gotten, of the total acreage and lane miles that you're looking at, most particularly in regard to the medians, what acreage in the median area is within Queens and what acreage is in Brooklyn? And then in terms of the lane miles traffic, and the gentleman's perfectly great. We all use the conduit, whether we're in Brooklyn or in Queens. But I'm getting questions that people are trying to figure out from themselves in their own communities, and the different questions in, for example, the questions in South Ozone Park are different maybe than the questions in Tudor Village, or the questions in Lindenwood, or the questions even other areas along the strip. So we kind of like to get a clearer picture for people over what are you studying? You know you're studying the whole strip, but what are you studying more specifically in the individual areas? Because there's going to be a lot of concerns. I've already voiced them to Commissioner Garcia the other night. You know, from Community Board 10, we can think of lovely things that we would all love to see in the medians. But in terms of our board, we are absolutely concerned that nothing be designed in the median area without tremendous amount of forethought and planning in regard to the drainage. Because all of the area, with very few exceptions, on the south side of the conduit are within the existing floodplain. On the north side of the north conduit, all the future predictions on flooding, both from tidal flooding and from rainwater flooding, we're going to see in future years that floodplain enlarge. So whatever we do today is going to have long-term effects. So I'm just stressing that point because that is a major point within the community board.
So we're gonna start breaking out into Q&A because we're short on time.
46.
I can answer your question if you want to come over to the side. Sorry, we're just running short on time. But I'll kick it back over to Gloria.
Sure. So we're going to, based on the area that you're most interested or focused on. So the table for the Brooklyn side, I believe is this the Brooklyn table?
Yep.
Why is it broken up into Brooklyn?
It goes.
All right. So good news, we've had more people turn out tonight than we originally expected. So we're gonna have people kind of stand in groups, and we'll figure out the best table situation.
So everybody, if you wouldn't mind, what we're going to do is we're going to shift a little bit. We're going to move group 1, 2, and 3, which are divided by subsection. If you're interested in the neighborhoods that are like Cypress Hills, East New York, and Ozone Park, that will be group 1. Those interested in discussing the neighborhoods of Ozone Park, the Jewel Streets, and Lindenwood, that will be group 2. And group 3 will be focused on Howard Beach, Hamilton Beach, and South Ozone Park. Group 4 and group 5 will be open for the entire conduit. If you want Spanish translation, we're asking you to go to group 4. If you need Bengali translation, we're asking you to go to group 5. Now, again, like Gloria said, there were more of you guys than we had anticipated, so we're going to shift around the tables a little bit. So we just asked for you guys to stand up, go grab some water. We're going to shift things around, and then find your table in about like 2 minutes. Thank you. Sorry about that all.
So, sorry about that.
We did! Number 3! But you guys are a little bit...
No, you have to have cards, like stand-up cards.
Hey, what's up? Doing good. So it's gotten big. This is a big project. People say it was a real underrated project. Real underrated project. That's what people don't understand before they real underrated project. Like overrated, being exact. This was the talk of the city, being. I don't know why they didn't anticipate that. I thought it would be like an auditorium and.
I'm just wondering how you say it, because I know you usually have the enclaves, the realms, whatever you want to call them, Cypress Hills, Lindenwood, and all that. And you said you had like tables for the whole conduit or something like that?
Yeah, it's really just like most people, if you like live in a certain place, you're probably most focused.
Let's just make it just a big long table for the whole conduit. That's the whole conduit.
You only have so much time. Yeah, I mean, I was asking you to stop.
Yeah,
It's not a criminal conspiracy, you know, unless it is.
It's 7:50. We're running on limited time.
Oh, nice. Nice to meet you.
So. So, for out of respect, it's over, guys. And I'm talking about to die anyway. Out of respect for these people, like I said, because I want to come back the other events, I'm gonna cut it off. So, take care of New York City. Later, I'm gonna start my phone anyway. So, later. Peace out.